So question, can the Nikon P1000 with 3000 millimeter zoom actually perform up to or outperform the A7R IV at 600, which if you take in crop factor of APS-C sensor, we're looking at 900, and also has what's called intelligent zoom or clear imaging zoom, which is a 2x multiplier. So taking this into consideration, we have 1800 millimeters at 26 megapixels versus 16 megapixels at 3000. Trying to figure this out. I know it's a strange comparison, but I have this question: is it even worth carrying this camera around if I have such a large megapixel camera, but I'm actually giving up full frame 5 times the amount of zoom? This is 600 millimeters, this is 3000, but the Nikon gives up 4 times the amount of resolution, and in addition to really good glass. So that is the question. Let's do some comparisons. The first image that I'm going to compare is shooting out of my car door, 200 millimeters, just to see what the image looks like, how it compares. Now, if we look at this, 200 millimeters on each camera, a little bit different in the resolution, or I should say in the way the cropping of the image goes, but just know I definitely did measure these at 200 millimeters. And when we zoom into the tree all the way, we can see a huge disparity in the image quality as far as resolution. The Nikon absolutely mops up from the Nikon P1000. If you look at it, the Nikon P1000 almost looks like a water painting. The resolution, there's not a whole lot of image quality at all when you zoom in that much on a 16 megapixel camera. Knowing this, we did some other test shots. I went all the way out to 2500 to 3000 with the Nikon, and then started zooming out with the Sony. And looking at the image quality along this lines, things get a lot closer. And it was only when I was in the car, I probably tried 10 to 20 shots of each camera, and things looked really close in the viewfinder. And later on that night, came back, looked at the PC, and was kind of blown away how close the image quality is. And in some respects, I would give the image quality a little bit of a boost to the Nikon P1000 as far as resolution and what it was able to resolve. Now, there's a whole bunch of caveats with that. First, these were perfect conditions. Perfect light, ISO 100, everything was in favor of the Nikon as best as I could get it. And looking at it, you know, it really came down to more technique than anything with both cameras. Looking at this, I could take some of the photos from the Sony and compare them against some of the photos from the Nikon, and I liked the Sony better as far as the resolution, a little sharper. And then I could take some of the Nikon and put it against some of the Sonys and like the Nikon a little bit better. But when I really narrowed it down, the 2 best photos from each camera, and I'm talking ever so slightly, just a very slight, I thought that the Nikon looked a tad bit sharper, which I was kind of blown away. But then I decided, you know, I'm going to run some more tests. I'm actually going to run it inside on a tripod in perfect conditions to see what we're actually gaining. Now, the previous shots were at 1800 millimeters with the Sony, with the clear image zoom, everything maxed out. I tried the 600 millimeters, I tried the 900 millimeters, I tried it all, and it really didn't matter. I was kind of coming back with the same results. But putting it on a tripod, probably 20 feet away, down in the basement, I actually put one of these big soft boxes. I'll show you the comparison image, what we're looking at. We're looking at kind of a card and with some hair and just some typing and some text. And we'll notice this is where things change up a little bit. Now, again, we're at ISO 100. We're shooting at max f-stop. For the Nikon, it's 3000 millimeters with f8. And with the Sony, it's 1800 millimeters. I tried it at 600 and 900 and 1800 millimeters, and it really didn't change that much. But when we look at this, the image quality, we look from side to side. In the center of the image, it looks extremely close. It's not only till we get out to the sides of the image that we notice some things that are pretty common to consumer grade glass in the Nikon. And that is the lens softness. The corners of the image are soft, and that's pretty typical for consumer grade lenses. Let's say a Nikon 70-300. The side or the corners of the image tend to be a little bit soft. And that's one of the things that kind of jumped out. Now, if I pulled back the image a little bit to say 2000, and this image, you'll notice it gets a little bit sharper. And so not maxing out the lens at all 3000 millimeters, going to say 2000 or 2200. Notice a little bit more sharpness on the edges of the photo, but still very, very close. I like both images, but I would give it to the Sony. Took another snapshot not too far away, again soft boxes on it, and this is of a coin. And I was kind of blown away at how sharp the coin and how close the image quality is from both these cameras. Now, if we look at the Nikon, everything is good. Everything is really tack sharp. And if we look at the Sony, same situation. The coin is really, really tack sharp as far as I'm concerned. You can see resolution. You can see little scratches in the coin. And again, this is 20 or 30 feet, and this is a coin probably about the size of a 50-cent piece or silver dollar, zoomed in. But again, if we look at the sides of the image or the corners, we can notice sometimes the Nikon has a tendency to bring in soft corners, or there might be a little bit of lens compression or a little bit of blurriness because of the zoom is so high, the magnification, it kind of washes that out. But if we look at the Sony, it is tack sharp across the frame, and the image just looks awesome. And I tried the clear image zoom. I tried the 600 millimeter and the 900 millimeter. They were all very close in comparison. I was really surprised at the AI, that clear image zoom that they have in the Sony system, because it didn't seem at ISO 100 and 200, 400. It really does a good job of keeping your megapixel count up there. So again, this is 1800 millimeters with the Sony, and it's 26 megapixels total. So that is awesome. Strangely, if we crop in with these two photos, I kept the Nikon the same. This is the 3000 millimeter shot, and if I crop in to match the Nikon with the Sony, meaning it has 1800 millimeters, but I have to crop in quite a bit, it went from 26 megapixels down to 16. Yeah, that blew me away. So essentially, I'm getting the same image with the Sony maxed out at 3000 millimeters as I do with the Nikon. So this test kind of brings some, it's a win-win. It's a rare scenario where you have a win-win when you're doing a comparison. In this case, some of the positive things with the Nikon. It's obviously way cheaper. It's like 5 times cheaper, 4 to 5 times cheaper, and it's going up against the top of the line resolution camera. And in the best conditions, again, it's got to be the best conditions. The zoom's not going to be there. The ISO, I should say, the autofocus is not going to be nearly as fast, and the ISO is not going to work as well. But in the perfect conditions, it can hang with one of the best cameras out there with some of the best glass. The benefit for the Nikon is, let's say you're thinking about a 24 megapixel sensor and let's, a 400 or 500 mil zoom lens. Let's take the Nikon with the 500 mil zoom and a 24 megapixel or 22 megapixel camera or an APS-C at that. I don't know if you're gonna gain a whole lot over the Nikon, again, with those constraints of, perfect conditions of the ISO being there and the autofocus and just going with that. Depends how much for how much. Are you going to double or triple your price of your Nikon upgrading? And that's the scenario there. The benefit, the win-win, is with the Sony. carrying this Nikon in the field, absolutely won't have to do it. I'm totally confident. It was a big question because a lot of times in the video, you want that zoom. But looking at this, looking at the image quality, it obviously is a match in many ways, way, way better as far as autofocus and low light and ISO and everything else. But it was always wondering if I had to get out there and had to cut that distance, would this camera perform very well with everything maxed out, you know, just everything turned up as far as I could go to see if I could get an image equal to a 3000 millimeter lens. And it does it no problem. And in fact, many ways surpasses that. The nice thing is now you can save yourself $1,000. Or if you have an R5, it's probably going to be very, very similar. That's a 45 megapixel camera. It's just when you start going down, how much is it going to cost you? Is it worth that? Because it's actually a good deal. If you can nail in perfect conditions for $1,000, that's not even half of this lens, what this costs. So anyway, guys, just figured put that out there. There's going to be a lot of probably, you know, people wondering. I know people wonder if they should pick up this camera, if it's worth it. Well, if you have a high-end camera, probably not unless you're wanting a cheap backup, or if you want a son, a daughter, or a wife to shoot along with you and you don't want them to miss out on some things and you can't afford another very expensive camera, that'd be nice. But other than that, you know, if you have the high-end stuff, you could probably bypass the P1000. If you're looking at buying the P1000, or if you're looking at upgrading, I should say, you have to probably look a little closer and maybe have to go up substantially if you want an image increase. Under ideal conditions, generally I see individuals using the point and shoots in ideal conditions. They don't usually go out in really low light. They don't go out in rain and snow. They kind of keep things very safe. Safaris, middle of the day kind of thing. Yeah. Anyway, guys, I hope this helps, and I'll see you guys next week.